So, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? E. Perez says CDQC with a hang loose hand emoji. Surf's up, bro. Um, so CDQC stands for those of you that don't know, is Combat Diver Qualification Course. And I believe this person went through the Army's version of that, and I went through the Marine Corps version. And so this picture that you may have seen if you watched the videos of the podcast hanging up behind me is actually taken from that course. This is a picture by Michael Elliott. You can find him at Michael Elliott Photography. And this is actually, he was an instructor down the course and found and took this picture of a student. This isn't just like a stock photo or something. This is from an actual class, and he presented this to me. So, and I actually have a picture from my we call ours MCD, Marine Combatant Diver. And here's a picture from my class, and you can see me right here in the middle. Anyways, this brings me on point. The hardest thing you've ever done, I can definitely see why. A lot of guys actually wash out of this course, and the job I did, it was actually part of our pipeline of training that you have to go through to qualify as a Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman. So if you don't pass it, you don't make it into the job. So, and a lot of people didn't pass it, and it's because it can be difficult. However, I'm a child of the water. I feel, from a very young age, I almost feel more at home in water than I do on land, and I love it. I love being in the ocean. I love being in the ocean, under the water, on top of the water, on lakes, rivers, having rain on my face. I love it all. So, snow, ice, water, glacier, you'll find me in it and above it, and I love it. So, I had a blast at dive school. It was probably actually one of the funnest courses I went through, but don't let that take away from like I said, everybody, some things are hard for people and other people it's not. And so, dude, but man, that was a fun time down there. So the Marine one is down in Panama City, Florida. And I just had so much fun. I was really working on myself during this time. I had taken a break from drinking alcohol, and I was like working out like crazy. I was doing 3 workouts a day, where like one would be the dive, then I would work out in the gym, and then I would go for a run at the beach. And I was in really good shape. And I think what's really hard for people is the underwater confidence part, where they'll tie your hands behind your back, and you got to be able to float up and down in the deep end of the pool. Let all your air out to float down to the bottom, or drift down to the bottom, and then push off the bottom. And then you have to do all these tasks, and grab a mask with your teeth and bring it up and bob up and down with this thing in your teeth, trying to breathe. And so it freaks out a lot of people. And then when you're doing the dive hits, where you have a scuba tank on and you thin around the bottom of the pool until the instructors swim down and proceed to basically like gang style initiate you and toss you around. It's supposed to simulate like being tossed around by the ocean in the surf zone or something, or when stuff goes bad underwater, and being able to remain calm and deal with the situation. But it freaks a lot of people out, and they can't deal with it, and they bolt to the surface, which is a bad idea, or have to ask for air, and they can't solve their own problem. So but I love it. I love being underwater. I feel at home, so I feel really calm. So a lot of that stuff was easy for me. And plus, I got to dive school a little bit early. And if you ever want to get good at underwater stuff, if you can put on a pair of utility camis and do all the stuff you're required to do in just a swimming suit, once you take that off, I mean, you feel it's like running, with a parachute or something. It's like taking off the parachute. You feel like you could just stay underwater forever. But yeah, so it was really cool. But during that time, I feel like one of my favorite memories was after we do a night dive, which was really cool. We dive with rebreathers, which is you're breathing pure O2, and it goes through a soda lime canister where you breathe in oxygen through one tube, and then when you exhale, it opens a valve and goes out another one, and it goes through a soda lime canister, scrubs off the CO2 or the carbon from the CO2 that you breathe out, and then that's how you recycle the air. And then you have an O2 tank, so like, this isn't a perfect process, and so as you need more O2, you can add sort of more oxygen into the system. But so you don't have bubbles from this process when you're diving at night underwater, and so it's a really calm feeling. I mean, granted, in this you're diving for time, so you're not just like chilling. You have to fin really hard to make sure you make the times, and of course you want to do your best. So you're not just like hanging out into there, but it's really cool because it's quiet and there's the bioluminescence. So it's just like being in a whole different world underneath there. It's, can be super dark depending on the illumination, and you're not like that deep. So, but there's just this glowing, green stuff everywhere. And it's just like coming off your, if you're diving behind your dive buddy, it's just, you see it like coming off of them, and you can actually sort of see your dive buddy. And then there'll be these times where, you're just attached by a long leash to each other. So you can find each other if there's anything that goes wrong, or if your partner has a dive related injury and, you get separated, you can find them. You just follow the leash in the darkness. And that's kind of trippy. Sometimes you're following and one guy's navigating and the other guy's just kind of following along. And so, there'll be times where the person you're following just kind of like disappears in the blackness, and you're like, where'd they go? And all of a sudden your leash will jerk, and then you'll have to like follow it, and then you'll find them. But that's kind of a trippy feeling, just watching somebody disappear underwater into blackness. But the bioluminescence, just a bunch of glowy stuff under the water, is really, really cool. And we'd have every once in a while you feel something kind of jerk on your fin, and it wasn't sharks. Apparently it was dolphins who come up and play with you and nip on your fins. But anyways, and you like don't see anything. You have a dive knife, but that's about it. So that was really fun doing the night dives. And then afterwards, there's like a certain degree of hungry. It's like almost like having the munchies after you've smoked a big blunt or something. You kind of have the same effect after doing a night dive, or just, I think, diving in general. It's I think you're exerting sort of a lot of energy and stuff, but man, it felt good to eat after that. And we'd always go to the same diner right down the street from the base, and I would get a huge chocolate milk and like a burger, I think, like a double cheeseburger, totally greasy, and we would house some food afterwards, and it was just really fond memories during that time. But yeah,